Facebook, good afternoon. Perry Power here from Power Bespoke. I'm going to keep looking over here because the my screen's here and Dan's here and the camera's there. Hope everyone's well. As I said in previous lives, we're really trying to get more consistent on doing these Friday. It's supposed to be live at 5, but I've got a completion handover later today, so we couldn't do 5. But we're joined by Dan Kux, a recently joined partner agent of Power Bespoke, specialising in the Brighton to Hastings kind of area and anywhere in between. And we thought we'd jump on the live today just to say hi, share some good property advice like we like to do, answer any questions that might come in, that kind of stuff. So good afternoon, Dan.
Hi, Perry.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. As
always, I'm going to do that annoying thing now and just make sure if anyone's watching, I know there are some people watching. We've got 6 people on Dan. That's how cool we are. If you can hear me all right, can you just put a comment in so I can see while I run off and check my Facebook? Outside. You all right? Can you just put a comment in? So you can definitely hear us. Let's kick off. Put that back on silent. So Dan, give us a quick intro, quick hello about you.
Yeah, so don't really know what you want to know. I've got 2 dogs. They're the only ones I've got at the moment. No children or anything. Huge sports lover, mainly football. Done a lot of coaching and been in the industry for what seems an eternity, but enjoying it.
Love it. So we love sharing our little dog pickies because you've got 2 dogs, didn't you? I've got 4 and almost 4 kids. Got 1 on the way. So you might have to borrow some of them at some point and look after them ones for me. And Dan, live on air, we're just going to confirm here that Dan's a massive sport fan and I am going to play him at tennis. We will live stream it and we will make sure that I beat him. But we're not playing football because I literally can't even kick a ball straight. So we're going to jump on it. And so Dan, what was it? We were chatting over the last few months and I could really see your motivations about why you got into agency were really higher than just the typical make some money and drive a Ferrari. But without sharing everything, like what motivated you to get into estate agency? And the important thing here is as a profession, because I really see it as a profession and as opposed to a job. So what is it about estate agency that gets you ticking?
I think just the industry in general. I think there was a lot that maybe could be done better and make the experience for home movers, home buyers, renting. That could have been improved just through the agent, just doing the simple things really. And that was always a sort of big goal of mine. And I sort of set out to try and change the industry, realized that was a big job on my own. But, you know, I'd go above and beyond to make sure people had a really good experience. And ultimately, I want to be that person that in 3 years' time, ex-clients are talking about me to friends and family and raving about me. So, yeah, just make the experience more enjoyable, really.
Which is, I think, how we got on so well, because we're all about changing the perception of estate agents, enabling more people to move on to the next chapter of their life, whether it's handling it for them or just giving good advice, like we're going to get into in a minute, about how to get from A to B, where they currently are to where they want to be. So let me check my agenda. Let's go through it. What would you say? And it's important. So I'm a massive fan of, I've said this on record before, I'll say it again. It's important to have a local agent, someone that knows the area. But what's more important these days, in my view, is the local agent is being replaced by the kind of local expert. Forget the agent. The local expert is being replaced by the marketing and negotiation expert. And because local knowledge is important to have, but you can have all the important knowledge in the world, but if you can't negotiate, you ain't going to get the client the best outcome. Mm-hmm. Just knowing what Ofsted rating a local school isn't going to get the client the best price for their house. Negotiation skill and marketing ability to get more interest in the house definitely is. But that said, we all of us, me included, I've got a client coming on in Acton, West London, because she's really keen to sell with us. Never sold a house there before, haven't got no clue about the area. I'm going to research it. But we all very much focus on our core patches and our, where we live and breathe. My kids go to school down the road, and I sell a lot of property around here. So what is it about your local kind of Brighton to Hastings coast that you like yourself?
I mean, I've always lived here for all my life, and I love the beach. I love the seafront. I love what it's got going for it. There's always something going on down there. You get so many people now sort of moving out of London down to the seafront because they want to live closer to the coast. Sort of the last clients I helped move wanted to move closer to the seafront and retire and enjoy those walks, and just being sort of in a city, close to the city centre, but also enough to come out of it and enjoy, the quiet countrysides that are available as well. So it's just the variety that Brighton has to offer and the surrounding areas is, I think, very key for a lot of people moving down here, really.
Yeah, I love that, because it is like Brighton's referred to like a little mini London, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Just with the seaside. Like you've got so many pockets of, you mentioned Wooddean, that's a bit more, am I right here? Is that a bit more away from the coast, but it's a bit more countryside?
You see Rottendean, and then Woodendean's the next one up as you come sort of inland, and then you've got sort of Falmouth, the A27 that will take you, onto the A23 and so on. So you're away from it all, but actually to get where you want to be in terms of city centre, the M23 or whatever, you are very close to doing that as well. So it's got a lot going for it, and it's just a place I love living, love being in, and the sea definitely makes it a whole lot better.
Bit more sea air. And I remember many a times before marriage and children going to Brighton for a good night out, because you can have a good night out in Brighton, and then waking up. Actually, one night, I shouldn't really admit this live on our company Facebook page live, but I think I woke up one day on the beach the next morning. That's how cool it was.
I don't think you're the only one.
So, and that's what I really like about having you part of the team, and Simon also covers Brighton, and then probably more down towards the Worthing coast as well. The variety, and we've seen it with Power Bespoke. As I mentioned, you've got people, this lady who would like to help. She wants our help on the sale, because more importantly, she wants our help on the purchase, because she's looking to move from Acton, West London to Brighton. She's always had a dream of having a seafront Art Deco apartment. And, I love all that, helping people achieve that. And she's a typical example of people moving out of London, probably more so now, I guess, which is probably a good thing to discuss now. Kind of where the most of the buyers coming from, would you say? Are they more local, upsizing, downsizing, or mostly out of area?
I mean, I've thought about this, and I think it's not quite 50-50 yet, but we are heading to that way quite quickly. My last sort of two or three were people moving down from London, but sort of away from Canary Wharf. They don't need to be in the offices anymore at the moment. Obviously, they don't think they're going to be needed again, but if they are required to go back into the offices, they want to be somewhere that's commutable, like London, like Brighton to London, to Victoria is fairly quick as well. So, you're still getting a few sort of in the area, like say downsizing, upsizing, but we're certainly seeing an increase in people from London coming down as well.
And I think that's huge, isn't it? Because we find a lot, because we've got Nicole down in Purley pushing into Croydon, then East Croydon. We've got a new guy joining us soon, more kind of Norbury, Streatham way. We're doing a bit in South London, where our HQ obviously is in Reigate, but we rely heavily on our agents in the areas. But it's really, we're seeing that a lot. I've got a client coming on in Dorking who's now, because of the remote working, he's just waiting for confirmation whether or not he's got to do 1 day a week in the office or 3, but it certainly won't be 5. And then they're moving to Yorkshire. So I think this whole COVID situation has created a huge amount of demand. Mel's just said as well, my vendor in Caterham moving to Brighton this week. Yeah, so Caterham down to Brighton. And I think where Brighton's so varied, because I love it. Me and Tash in the summer, take the kids down there. I think everyone from London goes to Brighton. That's a nearest seaside, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah.
And because there's such a variety of, you could buy something 15 minutes inland in a little village, or you can buy something with sea views. It is such a variety, and that's really, I'm looking forward to the next 12 months to see how that progresses with more clients moving out of London. And what I was waffling on trying to say is, because we've got that Nicole down in Croydon, HQs in Reigate, you down in Brighton, and Simon, we're starting to really find people who are more focused on our kind of search and secure power next service, and they want us to handle the sale of their house for them as well, wherever that might be.
Yeah.
Really interesting. I've gone off piece. Let me go back to my agenda. So in general, we've covered the buyers. What's the market doing? And Brighton, I know Brighton's a big area, Brighton and Hove, you've got little villages, but as a high level.
Yeah, so we sort of had a little look beforehand, and in the sort of BM1 within 3 miles, 66% of properties are under offer, which I think shows that there is huge demand there at the moment. The number of properties that are on the market currently is, a fair amount. I think it was sort of near, over 1,000 properties in sort of BM1, BM2. So a lot of properties coming on the market, and a lot of them are going under offer, which I think is the more important part there to note.
I think it was that surprised me, and because offline before the live we were going over I like looking at under offer to for sale ratios, right? So we looked at Brighton, didn't we? Well, BM1 3 miles around,
yeah,
there's 6,500 properties total.
Yeah.
And of that 6,500, 4,361 are marked as under offer.
Yeah.
Which is 66%. And I was like, whoa, that's really high. Let me check Reigate and Red Hill and Hawley and other areas. And it's about the same across the board. Because I think anywhere in the southeast at the minute, there's a real imbalance of supply and demand. Lots of demand, but not enough supply. And that's only going to be, it's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother time. But I think that's only going to be more fueled when this 95% mortgages come out, because if 66% of properties are currently being sold in areas when people need at least 15, if not 20% deposit for the decent mortgage rates, what's that going to be like when they need only 5%?
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that, sort of those 66%, the house price have increased, sort of by 16% approximately. So again, the house prices are going up because of that. And like you say, once the 95% mortgages kick in, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
And that's a good little side note there, I guess, is that if the market projections or expectations or guesses, as I like to also call them, is going to be right, as in, whatever report you read, prices last year rose at least 5%. Some say 4, some say 5, some say 7, depending which market report you look at. But if that's going to happen again, and we're going to see, because of these government-backed prop-up schemes, I guess you could call it, just to fuel the market, generation rent to generation own, if that's going to have a 5, 7, 10% impact on property prices this year, the time now to upsize. Like now, if someone's thinking of moving, because that 10% difference on 500 grand is 50 grand, but something at 700 grand is 70 grand, and you're 20 grand worse off by waiting a year to move house.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. If you're going the other way and downsizing, you're best off waiting until your 500 grand house is worth 700 grand, because 10% on 300 grand is only 30 grand. So you're better off getting more money from letting your property price rise. I'm doing it again, Dan. I'm sorry. One sec. Next point. So what would you say, and you've had a decent run, what I love about our agents and Power Bespoke as well is that we're not property snobs. And I'm really passionate about that. I'm just completing today on a studio flat in Red Hill, and I've got a completion next week on a 6-bedroom detached house at 1.5 million. Like, where would you say, and you've got some nice 800 grand property sales under offer, and you've got some flats, where's the demand at right now, would you say? Price point or property type?
I mean, looking over the last year, it was terraced houses actually that was selling the most. Why that is, I'm not too sure. I know sort of the closer you go into Brighton, the city centre, that they're terraced houses or apartments. So, maybe more people are looking to move into the centre for whatever reason. But I think detached properties are probably the most desired in the area. But again, you sort of need to come further away from the city centre and the seafront, to find those sort of properties with gardens, or there'll be decent parking and so on. So yeah, it sort of fluctuates at the moment, but I think at the moment terrace houses look like they're doing the most sales, and I think with the 95% mortgages, I think we'll definitely see that increase, as well as maybe apartments as well. So it'll be interesting to see in the coming months what happens.
Well, and that's really interesting. And I guess the trouble with data at the minute is it's looking at last year's, probably 6 months ago, sales agreed, right? Because the average sale takes 3 months to go through. It sometimes takes 3 months to publish on land registry before data sources can start using it in their data things.
Yeah.
But I think, interestingly, that makes complete sense based on last year, because a lot of people during lockdown and COVID were just wanting to get out of potentially their leasehold property into a small little house, potentially stamp duty saving. Let's do it now rather than wait until, obviously it's been extended now, but there's a lot of pressure between January and March to get completed, and the back end of last year. And the flip side to that was, obviously, that was causing a lot of oversupply of flats. We saw it down here in Red Hill that there was, at one point, it was about a 40% under offer to sale agreed ratio, for sale to under offer. Because there was like 300 flats available, and only because there were so many, because everyone's trying to make that step up. So I reckon that's, for a layman like me, quite logical that it wasn't the big detached houses that were most in demand. It was more the people now, because there's probably more percentage of flats in Brighton than houses, I'm guessing. Is that a fair guess?
If you go towards the city centre, you'll see there's a lot more flats. It's only when you come out to sort of surrounding areas that you'll see more houses than flats. So yeah, it ultimately depends on whereabouts in Brighton you're looking to move to.
Yeah. So then we've kind of covered it a little bit, but and we're bang on time. I love this. I haven't waffled as much as I normally do. I've tried to stop myself. So in terms of prices, one of the questions I like to go over with the agents in the areas is more like, what are prices doing? We've kind of covered that, because we know they rose last year, much against various. When COVID hit, prices are going to drop 20%, and they ended up going up, average of 5 or 6 or 7%. But what would you say in that, if you were to be a betting man, and this is live and it's recorded, let's have a Dan prediction for property prices at the end of 2021. How much would you think this year they're going to increase?
I wouldn't want to put a number on it, but they are going to increase a fair bit, I think. I don't know in terms of
5%, 10%, 15%.
I think I'll go safe and say 5%. The thing is, you're going to get these 95% mortgages that are going to push first-time buyers onto the ladder. You'll get them people that will moving from their first home into their second home and upsizing, and it'll be a domino effect. And as you say, I think the demand will be there as well. So yeah, let's go 7. Let's go 7%.
Love that. Yeah, I'm with you, because although a lot of these things are very much positive. I was only speaking to a mortgage advisor yesterday, and what wasn't clear is that great, the government's underpinning or guaranteeing for lenders, but lenders still have control of their lending criteria. So that could potentially restrict some people still. Headline grabbing isn't always the best thing in the world. 19.5 minutes. Didn't I say to you, I'm going to try and keep this to 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Because that's the sweet spot. And we've got good numbers as well. No one's dropped off yet. So please don't drop off yet, because we've got one more thing to cover. I'd like to end these. As people, as a company, we're really just, give first, give, and give great advice. What about the content and best practice when it comes to moving and selling? So Dan's going to share if you're thinking of selling, trying to sell, his top tip for a seller. And then while he's talking, I'm going to think of mine, because I didn't prepare as well as Dan. And then I'm going to share mine. So Dan, what would if someone's either stuck on the market, planning on going on the market, nervous about it potentially, what would your number one piece of advice be?
I think we've already covered the number of properties that are on the market, and in such I mean, it is quite a small area. There's going to be a vast number of houses on the market. There's a huge number of agents as well. I'd be telling people to get a proactive agent, get a driven agent that wants to help them move, rather than just put them on Rightmove and Zoopla and hope that a buyer comes to them. Always find out sort of plan A, but what happens if plan A doesn't work? What if the market is telling us something different? What's the plan B going to be to get them moved rather than stagnate on the market? And I think the biggest one is, how are they going to make you stand out from the other hundreds of properties that are on that market, and that potential buyers can go and view instead. So yeah, it's just all about plan A, plan B, and how they're going to make you stand out.
That's really good. So we've just covered that, there's a big for sale to under offer ratio. 66% of properties currently in BN1 and 3 mile around are under offer. You can just flick a house on Rightmove and it will sell. I'm pretty certain. You get loads of inquiries. Clearly the agent's got to respond to them, but let's assume that they are doing that very well. But what it sells for is what the agent has the absolute, not control over, I wouldn't say, but has the influence over. There we go, influence. A good agent will get you between 1% and 2% more for your property just because they're good negotiators. So you mentioned get a driven and motivated agent. How do people do that?
I think one thing that I would suggest people doing is welcome, obviously, the agent into your home, but just shut up. Just let the agent talk. And ultimately you'll see in their body language, in what they're saying to you, how driven they actually are, or whether they just want to get you on and tied into a long contract or whatever. A motivated, driven agent will probably say, look, no week contract, give me the week and see how I get on. And, if you decide it doesn't work for you, then we'll move on. But I just think you really, really have to ask the agent a lot of questions to see how driven they are. You're almost interviewing them for them to come and sell your home.
Great advice. And on that questions point, we have got 16 crucial questions to ask before employing an estate agent. So if you want a copy of it, drop a comment in the comments and we'll get one across to you. That really ties in really well, actually, with what I would want to share with somebody if they were planning, thinking, trying to sell their property. Maybe they're on the market, it's not going too well. One of the ways that I believe all estate agents should be paid, and it ties in with the driven and motivation, is to pay them based on the performance fee. And that's a good way to. So in my mind, you as a homeowner are employing somebody. Forget you're choosing an estate agent. You're employing somebody to be your employee to get your house sold or get you moved. The best way to incentivize an employee is to put some kind of bonus in place. And that bonus could be based on price achieved, time to exchange, time to agree, the sale, get a proceedable buyer. So just think creatively is my advice about what we like to do. Power Bespoke is put bespoke fee packages together. There's no kind of this is our fee and take it or leave it. If someone needs a really quick sale because they're getting repossessed, then we'll maybe do a performance fee based on time to exchange. Or if they are in no great rush but they really want the highest figure, we can put a performance fee in place for price achieved. So really good advice. And that pretty much wraps up our live, I think, Dan. That was really good. 25 minutes. A couple of questions. A couple of comments. Mel, yes, one of our clients are moving to Caterham. I didn't even know this. Mel is one of our agents as well. She covers the Caterham area. He used to live on Marine Parade overlooking the sea and commute to Kensington. Love that.
Very nice area.
Now we're home working. Daffyd, one of our Power Agent members, is in Wales. He said Brighton's a stunning location. Ian Story, the old Story, said Lulu Story. I think it's tagged someone in, but I can't see the tag. And Rob, really good comment. Rob's another of our agents. He's covering the Horsham and parts of London. Make sure that any people moving, that the mortgage provider will take into consideration the mortgage break through COVID. Yeah, that's a great bit of advice. So there we go, Dan. Good work. Really good live. We've shared some really valuable information for people. Haven't waffled on too long. Enjoy the rest of the day, everyone. If anyone needs any advice from Dan, I'm going to put his number and his email address in the comments, and we'll see you all soon. Take care.
Thanks, Barry.
Cheers, Dan.